Welcome. I'm Todd Raffel with ERE Media, and I'm here with Kevin Kruse. Kevin is near Philadelphia, Richboro, and Kevin used to be with Connexa, and now wrote a great book with Rudy Carson, CEO of Connexa, a book about employee engagement. So welcome, Kevin,
Thanks,
to
Todd.
ERE.net, ERE Media, and we're talking about pay for performance and pay and unemployment. In your best-selling book, in an article in Fast Company and elsewhere, you've mentioned or alluded to unemployment would be much less if people were paid more for performance. So if instead of getting $60,000, you might get only 40 with a chance to make 80, you think unemployment would be much lower if that was going on. Is that right, and why?
Yeah, that sums it up really well. I mean, there's already a big trend towards variable pay or this pay for performance. Hewitt data shows that the amount of our pay, our collective pay that's now performance based, has tripled in the last 20 years, which means in another 20 years, about 1/4 of all pay would be pay for performance type pay. What I'm suggesting is that if we accelerate that, if we take that to the extreme, and pay people more like sports stars are paid, that could actually have a big impact on the unemployment rate, because it's basically bringing down the risk to companies to hire. They certainly are sitting on tons of cash, but they're being very cautious with it. So it brings down the risk in case we happen to go into a double dip recession or something like that. And it enables unemployed workers who don't want to take a job at a lower rate, because then they feel they're going to get locked into that rate. They can honestly say, look, I'm accepting an $80,000 job. It just happens to be structured in a little bit of a different way. And they're willing to take the risk to get back to being productive, working, get off the sidelines, and knowing that there's an upside, they could actually make a lot more than they would under a normal circumstance.
Two questions. I'll throw them to you at once, and
Okay.
if you remember them, you can answer them both. First one is, as I understand it, a lot of times you're not really just taking a job where the company doesn't have money to pay you. You're taking like a different job, like you're working at Starbucks or something because you even though you're overqualified, so to speak, but there's only so much they're going to pay you at Starbucks. I mean, even if you're the best coffee salesperson in the world, how much are you really going to be paid? And they can still afford to charge coffee for that, for that amount. So, isn't that an issue? And then the second question, this is, I think, an age-old question with pay for performance is, it works for people who are in sales and other professions where there's more of a direct line to business results.
Right.
The age-old question, and of course we've written on ERE and elsewhere that you can kind of make any job pay for performance and whatnot, and how to quantify the quality of hire. But it's still pretty darn difficult to say, okay, you're a journalist, how do you pay someone per clicks, impressions, comments? I mean, it's just a lot of jobs. You're a designer, how do quantify that your Band-Aid design for Johnson & Johnson resulted in more sales or hurt sales? Those things are so hard to quantify, even though we've tried you many times.
Yeah, those are two good questions. I mean, and maybe I'll just sort of wrap them together. The certainly for jobs that are more, for lack of a better word, commodity type jobs that are often blue collar or lower in a pay scale, it can be harder to structure these kinds of packages, but not impossible. And the at-risk part doesn't always have to be tied to the financials. I mean, I think where there's a direct line, that is certainly the best measure. But I'll give you just a quick example. Just today, it's garbage day at my house, and it's also recycling day. And what happens, it's the same pickup company, but the recycling truck comes in early in the morning, and then the garbage truck comes through about 3 hours later. And I just happened to see, when the garbage truck, the second truck, came today, that the first truck had left my recycling bins in the middle of the street for whatever reason. And I was curious if the garbage truck guys were going to leave them there or if they would take the time to go and pick them up and put them in my yard. To my surprise, they actually picked them up and put them in my yard. But it really did surprise me. And what it made me think about is, so this is, guys that are probably paid, I don't know what, $20 an hour and are paid just by the hour. But what if a good chunk of their pay, a large percentage, was based on customer satisfaction? Are my garbage cans put back where they need to be? And on productivity, how many houses did they serve? I've known people who've had that job, and they say it's very variable, that often they finish their routes very early, but they don't go back in because they're afraid they're going to be given more work, so they park the truck and they take a nap or read the newspaper. They've also said if there's bad weather or traffic jams or it's after a holiday and there's a lot of garbage, they have a hard time getting through their route in the 8-hour day, and so they drive real fast and they toss the trash cans. So if you structured a pay for performance that was based on quality, satisfaction of the customer, but also productivity, and not just your own. That's one, maybe a third of your pay, but another third is based on your team or your neighborhood's productivity. Well, then all of a sudden you've got the sanitation workers working together in this combination of speed and quality. And you mentioned Starbucks. I mean, they actually do give stock options as an extra part of their pay and are trying to incentivize for overall growth. Now, it's a very small part of their compensation, but I think it can work. So tie it directly to sales and profitability if you can, or some portion of it, but then tie it back to individual productivity and teamwork if you can.
Interesting. Thanks, Kevin. Once again, this is Kevin Kruse, formerly with Connexa, and author of a bestseller book with Rudy Carson, who's the CEO of Connexa on employee engagement. With that, I will again wish you a thanks. Happy Garbage Day and Recycling Day, both, and have a good weekend.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Thanks.